Okay, this is take two. Facebook shut us down because they didn't like the Meatloaf music being played. Hopefully they like Meatloaf music. They just didn't like it being played. So, let's see here. There's Dave. Dave's in. Shannon is back. Let's see. Edit. Oh, whoops. Oh, okay. All right, there's that. Christopher Silva, Fred Robert Casares Jr., Hector Gomez, Elizabeth Jones, Sam Tobias, Carl Fisher. I think I said Christopher Silva. Anthony Del Toro, Gabe Quintanilla. Yeah, Facebook ejected us for playing the Meatloaf music. Oh, well. Sorry, Facebook. I got lots of Meatloaf music. I got nothing but Meatloaf music. I've been listening to Meatloaf all morning. I was listening to Meatloaf in the car. Lucinda Sullivan, good morning. Yeah, Amber, somebody made this shirt for me, a listener / viewer, like 2 years ago, and only made one. Put guns on it, which I thought was weird, but it's funny. So it says Chris Duel Show and Get Off My Lawn. So we might eventually, we would need T-shirts with Shannon on them, of course. So maybe we've got a relationship with Sammy's Embroidery. Maybe we'll design and create some T-shirts. Try to come up with something unique and funny and weird. Yeah, I got a lot more. These were only, and I got a ton of CDs over the years. So these were just the ones that I could grab this morning. All right, Amber, we'll work on some merch. Maybe that'll be our next thing in yeah, and then that way we can just give them away, for maybe we talked about yesterday trivia. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe we'll make t-shirts or hats and maybe do sports trivia. Yeah, it's so weird. And I was listening in the car today, and this is Bat Out of Hell 2. And we don't really do this anymore, is sit down and listen to an entire album from beginning to end. And this was one of those albums / CDs that I did that with, which was, now with streaming, it's like you pick a song that you like and you create your mix and there's that. A trucker hat that says, "Get off my lawn." I imagine there are trucker hats that do that, Carl. That must be cool. I do need to get one of those. Wes Perkins, what's up? All right. That's a little silence going on. That's a little silence going on. Welcome back. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave OEHLER playing some Meatloaf music as we remember Meatloaf, who passed away overnight at the age of 74. And while we may remember Meatloaf and pay tribute to Meatloaf, Facebook and Sony, none too happy about that as they blew up our live video feed. We played a Meatloaf music montage. And when we started these video feeds, Shannon, the engineers said, "Oh, no problem. Any music you guys play, it's set up so that the music doesn't go out over the feed." But apparently that's not the case. As we found out once again, this has happened a few times lately. So, well.
And Sony might as well start paying your bots overtime because we're playing it all morning.
Yeah.
We're playing it all morning. Get used to it.
Well, and what drives me crazy, it's not like we're some dude playing Meatloaf music on our Facebook feed. We're a radio station, and iHeartRadio, one of the largest, if not the largest radio company on planet Earth. And yes, iHeartRadio pays money and our stations pay money to ASCAP and BMI to license this music, to give us the rights to play this music. But those are details to Facebook and Sony. So anyway, we're back up and running. We just relaunched the video feed. We'll see how long this one lasts. Hopefully it lasts for a while. All right. I know what will make us all feel better on this sad morning where we lose Meatloaf. How about the high five play of the day? High five play of the day is appropriately sponsored by High Five. 2 locations in the Austin area. They got everything you're looking for. They got everything you need. You need big screen TVs. They've got them. You need great drinks. They've got them. You need great food. They've got it. You need food specials and drink specials. They've got it. And you need to play games, whether it's bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, zombie dodgeball, and so much more. You'll find all of this fun stuff at the 2 High Five locations in the Austin area. Shannon Salty Sweeney, who is deserving of a high five this morning?
Today, our high five is going to an Olympian, one that I think a lot of people quickly became a fan of, not for his time playing sports, but for being the flag bearer for Tonga, Pita Taufatofua. His sports were taekwondo and cross country. He's been in the past 3 Olympics, the first Olympian to ever compete in 3 Olympics in a row. So 2016, 2018, and then again in Tokyo in 2021. And he really made headlines at first when he came out dressed in Tonga garb and was being the flag bearer, and his chest, his muscular being, was just greased up. And people couldn't get enough of him. I mean, they wanted more. Where was he? Where was he in the field of all of those Olympians? Let's have a spotlight camera on this guy. People couldn't get enough. They were so excited to see him at another Olympics and then another Olympics. His status for Beijing right now, still up in the air, although he is training apparently right now in Australia. But that's not what we're here to give him a high five for today. It's not but just because he keeps in great shape and he goes on a national stage all oiled up for all of us to enjoy. Although that is high five worthy in and of itself. PETA recently this week set up a GoFundMe because his homeland, there was a volcanic eruption which created a giant tsunami. And so across the islands, there are, ashes everywhere. There's massive destruction. They're still trying to get in contact. He himself is still trying to get in contact with members of his family, like his father. He does know that some family members are safe. But it's a crazy time for weather. I mean, look at us in Texas right now. I mean, people are rushing to H-E-B to buy things they don't need because it's cold. But this GoFundMe, set up earlier this week by PETA, has already raised, as of yesterday, over 400,000 American dollars, which equates to 550,000 Australian dollars, where the GoFundMe originated, because that is where he is currently training. Listen, for a guy who there's so many Olympians that go and they represent their country during the games, but they, once they take that USA or whatever their country is off their chest, they maybe aren't the greatest people. They maybe don't rep their country all of the time. But this guy, clearly a great human and person to be as a face of their nation during the Olympics and even throughout just his day-to-day life, for doing this for his country, for using his platform for good. We've got to give PETA a high five this morning.
Very, very cool. And I'm looking at his name again. You can probably come closer to the pronunciation. I just want to underscore this Olympic flag bearer athlete for Tonga. PETA, how do you pronounce his last name, or how do you do it?
So I saw a video of him saying it. It's Taufa Tofua.
Taufa Tofua.
Yes.
PETA Taufa Tofua. Very cool. Again, and they have this disaster in Tonga, the volcanic eruption. People's devastated. How sad as well. He's looking for his father. He's trying to locate either his father, praying he's alive, but if not, from a recovery standpoint, wanting closure, certainly at worst, with his father, and realizing, hey, I can do something. People know who I am. I've got a platform, as you mentioned, using his platform for good, trying to, take a devastating situation for his people, his countrymen, and certainly his family, and help. And so very, very cool, raising more than $350,000, and now that people are out there putting this out there that he's doing that, I hope that money doubles, triples, quadruples. I hope more people jump in and help the cause. That would be very, very good. I hope that happens.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of the J.J. Watt hurricane efforts for Houston a few years ago, using that platform for good and a lot of times exceeding the amount that you thought it would be for. They're not quite sure yet what they're going to do with the funds. They're still kind of seeing where they're needed most, but I'm sure by the end of today they will have grossed even more than the 400,000 US dollars they've already got.
Very, very cool. A big high five to him, as we, among other things, throughout the morning, certainly we are on the eve of NFL divisional football weekend. So we're talking a lot of NFL football. You know what we didn't get into, as you mentioned, J.J. Watt. Indeed, J.J. Watt did play in that divisional game between the Rams and the Cardinals. And you got to feel sorry for J.J. Watt, who's a very, very good guy who has been a superstar. And I got to believe, Shannon, he's a Hall of Famer in his future. Just the impact he's had on the game, the career he had with the Houston Texans. And here's a guy who, among other things, leaving the Houston Texans, getting away from that organization, which had gone very, very bad when he was there. He would love to experience a conference championship game or a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And, early in the year when Arizona looked like they were going to be number 1 seed in the NFC. It looked like it might be a possibility for him if he did come back from his injury, which he did. But J.J. Watt not going to, the clock is ticking on J.J. Watt. Who knows how many more years he has, and who knows if J.J. Watt's ever going to have an opportunity to play in a Super Bowl.
Well, I think because the clock is ticking, that is why he made that effort to appear in that playoff game last weekend, because he wants to be part of it, right? He doesn't want to be on the sidelines. And if he can be a part of it and be a part of playoff football and help his team in any way he can, that's what he's going to do. So it wasn't surprising to me that he made the effort to get back. I don't know, I guess, percentage-wise, if he was fully 100%. But he kept it real afterwards. I mean, even though he wasn't there to finish out the regular season, and that was his first game back with the team, he said that the season was a failure, which, I think from the outside as a non-Cardinals fan, seeing from where they were just a few years ago to where they are now, they've made some great leaps, and it looks pretty promising if they're able to get back to kind of where they were earlier in the season. But yeah, J.J. Watt, I don't know how much longer he has, especially with the injuries, especially with the age. I'd love to see him get some kind of hardware at some point, or some printed T-shirt that's fun. But I don't know if it's going to happen. At first when he went to the Cardinals, it was like, well, I don't know what kind of contender they're going to be. I guess look at him now, but I feel bad for him. That was a 2-year deal, right? So he's there again next year. So it'll be interesting after next season if he decides to make a move to play with his brothers. Does he decide to go someplace that is considered a contender before the season even starts? Or does he decide to go get a one final giant paycheck because his name is J.J. Watt?
And I just, Shannon, to have that much talent and to be a Hall of Famer ultimately, and we believe that he will be inducted 5 years after he retires from the NFL. I think of people like Barry Sanders, who was one of the greatest running backs ever. Dan Fouts, quarterback, San Diego Chargers back in the day, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Closest Dan Fouts came was that freezing 59-degree below zero wind chill AFC championship game at Cincinnati against the Bengals in January of 1982, January 10th, because it was the same day that Dwight Clark made the catch on the West Coast against the Dallas Cowboys. Tony Romo, who probably won't be a Hall of Famer, but very acclaimed, had a great career, now even a greater career as a broadcaster, to be that good. And yet you can't control your own. J.J. Watt became the best he could be, and it was good enough, I do believe, to be a Hall of Famer. Dan Fouts is in the Hall of Fame. Barry Sanders is in the Hall of Fame. But to be that good and never sniff a Super Bowl there's just got to be so much anguish. And when you do get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and you go hang out with Troy Aikman and Terry Bradshaw and, name all the Hall of Famers, Peyton Manning, it's got to suck. It's like, I had this football career. I was great in high school. I was great in college. I was great in the NFL. Here I am at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But the one thing that you want to do as a football player or as any athlete in any competition, win it all, or at least go to the big dance and experience it. Not to have that chance has got to be just heartbreaking.
To be fair, when he, after the year that he did the money raising for Houston and the Hurricane, he did win Walter Payton Man of the Year, which the trophy itself was presented to him before the Super Bowl took place. So he's been there.
He got to go.
But I do get you when you're like mentioning all these other names. It's kind of like well, what are you in for? And it's like, well, I've won MVP and I have X amount of rings. And he's like, well, I've won 3 Defensive Players of the Year and a Walter Payton Man of the Year award. And they're like, and what else? And he's like, well, that's it. That's all I have.
Yeah. Right. It's almost like on that TNT panel for basketball, NBA on TNT. Often when they get into an argument, Shaq versus Charles, exactly. Oh. And they'll fight and they'll go back and forth. And ultimately Shaq will say, well, you've never won a championship. You've never won a ring. And that, I mean, these guys have egos. We all have egos to some extent. And again, to be just one of the best in your game and to have developed your skills to the best of your ability. And if you're Charles Barkley or if you're J.J. Watt or Barry Sanders, you see other guys, lesser athletes that just happen to be on, Raheem Mostert of the 49ers a couple of years ago, went to the Super Bowl as the Niners played the Chiefs. You see other guys, lesser athletes, because they were on the right team at the right time, right. They go to the Super Bowl and you didn't get the chance. That's just got to be tough.
Jerry's obviously in, like, there are ways to get in other than being a player, right? And you mentioned Tony Romo. If he keeps up the way he's doing right now with his broadcasting, he could, they let broadcasters into the NFL Hall of Fame for their contributions, right? Maybe. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
So he could get in there. So I don't know about, like, cause you have to start thinking about what's life going to be like for JJ Watt, right? Like, I don't think he's just going to fall off after he retires from the NFL. Does he have aspirations?
Oh no. Yeah.
To be, I don't see him as a coach, but maybe an executive of some sort. And maybe he finds himself in a good spot that is, I don't know, but yeah, I love just the thought of, like, him sitting around all of these other guys and they're like, what are you in for? Nothing really.
I think JJ Watt, I mean, you mentioned Tony Romo and his broadcasting career in the same way. Howie Long was, a stud for the Oakland Raiders all those years. JJ Watt, people love him. He's very telegenic. I got a feeling, JJ Watt would be great on one of those panel shows, like Howie Long, Jimmy Johnson, and those guys. But you're right. And as he demonstrated, and this is, you got us on this conversation with what he did in Houston in the aftermath of that hurricane, after we talked about the Olympic athlete from Tonga. JJ Watt, as you mentioned, understands being an entrepreneur and being a guy who can make things happen. Well, it's nice, and you can make a lot of money being Howie Long on TV or being Tony Romo on TV. As you mentioned it, JJ Watt might just have a bigger calling and a bigger future to make a bigger difference in people's lives down the line. It's going to be very interesting to see how JJ Watt approaches his future.
Yeah, and it's weird too. I feel like when he first got started, people were always kind of annoyed with him, right? Because he was on all of the commercials. He was, appearing in TV shows and I don't know about movies, but he just was popping up everywhere. And it seems like he's really almost cut back on all of that. And I don't know if that's because of injuries and rehabbing, or if he is like, no, take me seriously. I am a football player. All of that stuff will be there when my career is over. Let me focus on football right now. It's just, he's kind of got two sides of his career.
Good point. Speaking of football, we're going to dive deep into the weekend's NFL playoffs, and we'll talk some Dallas Cowboys because he's all about the Cowboys. Coach A, Paul Alexander, our football guru, his thoughts on the Cowboys appearing to retain Mike McCarthy as we reach the acceptance phase of the 5 levels of grief. We'll talk about, we'll get his thoughts on the weekend divisional playoffs as well. Don't go anywhere. Lots coming at you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Beth Settle, good morning. I see Louise Locker, Elf Louise in here. Go down the roll call. If you're just joining us, we had to reboot our broadcast because we played a Meatloaf music montage honoring his passing overnight. And apparently, Facebook didn't like it. Sam Tobias, Christopher Silva, Fred Casares, Hector Gomez, Elizabeth Jones, Carl Fisher, Anthony Del Toro, Luisa Alanis, Robert Armstrong, Gabe Quintanilla, the Hammer, Sam Tobias, Lucinda Sullivan, Amber, Carl Fisher, Wes Perkins. I said Louise Locker. There's Louise. I'm scrolling through names. John Williams, Beth Settle, Marcus Valdespino, Leo Zambrano. Thank you, Carl Fisher. Tell Facebook to shove it. Shove it, Facebook. Dave OEHLER, ladies and gentlemen, in a moment. In fact, I may as well pull up my Paul Alexander photo. Paul Alexander going to join us in just a few. Let's see. Let there be coffee. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's the wonder drug that works wonders. Yes, Paul Alexander has been a football coach a number of places, including St. Anthony's in San Antonio. The St. Anthony Yellow Jackets, I believe, most recently. There you go, Rod Campbell. Had to Control-Alt-Delete the broadcast. Again, it drives me crazy because we're a radio station and we do have the rights to that music. If you're just tuning in, when I woke up this morning, I heard the news about Meatloaf, so I went to my CD rack, and I've been listening to Meatloaf music all morning long. Got my Meatloaf CDs, and I was listening to Bat Out of Hell 2 on the way in to work this morning, and my God, it's so good. So good. All right, I'm going to heat my coffee. I'll be back. I'll be back. Oh. Could probably use some ice for my iced tea as well. BRB. Did Meatloaf go to Highland Park High School? It looks like you're saying that. Let me see. I got Meatloaf's bio here. He graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School. He graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School in Dallas, according to Wikipedia. He went to North Texas State. He spent a short time at Lubbock Christian College before North Texas State. A football coach gave him the nickname Meatloaf because of his weight. Thank you, Rod Campbell. I was listening to that song this morning, Rod. The first song on Bat Out of Hell 2 is I Would Do Anything for Love. And just the production of it, just the layers and layers, and produced by Jim Steinman, and just the music, the chorus, the choir in the background, the mix. Meatloaf's voice is just spectacular. Some Meatloaf for you from the back of the CD. Bat Out of Hell 2. Yeah, Paradise by the Dashboard Light is classic. Thank you, sir. Woo! Gordon, our resident music expert, when Meatloaf made his first tour appearance for Bat Out of Hell in San Antonio at the Municipal Auditorium, the Rocky Picture Show was screened before he and his band took the stage. Wow! I never knew that, Gordon. That's so cool. Yeah, Meatloaf played the role of Eddie in Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was outstanding. Woo! Woo! That's wild if true. And Leo, they're, I think, roughly similar ages. And they both went to North Texas. You may be onto something, man. Let me see if I got a... Wikipedia doesn't specifically mention that, but I would not be surprised. Here we come.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys.
Gordon, did you go to that concert dressed as Frankenfurter? Was Frankenfurter your favorite character?
To the other side.
Here we go.
To the other side. Break on through to the other side. Yeah.
Now, Chris Duel.
Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney on a football Friday as we get you ready for the weekend's 4 outstanding NFL playoff games. And along the way, we remember a man who was born Marvin Lee Aday in Dallas, Texas, 74 years ago. He would reach fame and superstardom as Meatloaf. Texan Meatloaf passed away overnight at 74. We played some Meatloaf music for you in the 6 o'clock hour. You'll probably hear some more Meatloaf music before we get all done by 9 o'clock this morning as well. But first and foremost, it's about football, football, football. By the way, Meatloaf got his nickname from a football coach. When he was playing football, he was kind of a big guy, and the football coach called him Meatloaf, and it stuck. So, see, there's a football connection to Meatloaf. Whenever we talk football on this show, there is nobody we would rather talk NFL and Dallas Cowboy and playoff football than the coach himself from radicallyrational.com, Coach A, Paul Alexander. Paul, how are you on this football Friday?
I'm very well, but I'm trying to thaw out a little bit. I just took Frankie outside, and all I can say is, it's cold when you walk outside and think, man, it's cold out here.
See, and Paul,
good to be back inside.
Yeah, I live in South Texas for a reason, and one of the biggest reasons is I can't stand the cold. I am not built for it. I need sunshine, 75 degrees or more. I need a body of water, maybe the Gulf of Mexico or a pool, and an adult beverage or 6, and I'm good. This is kind of rough for me. Paul, before we talk about the weekend's divisional football playoff games, we brought you on Monday in the aftermath of the wreckage that was the Cowboys playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers. You've had 5 days now to digest it. The word out of Dallas looks like they're going to stick with Mike McCarthy. You suggested to us on Monday that Jerry needs to be bold and hire the best coach in the building, and that would be Dan Quinn. 5 days after the crime that took place, that would be the Cowboys' performance against the 49ers. Your thoughts as you wake up this morning on the Dallas Cowboys?
Chris, see what you did again.
Uh-oh.
You made me think, starting with our conversation on Monday, and you're exactly right. Now, here's where I'm coming from. Every NFL coach, every executive in anything brings a certain strength to the table. So you have coaches that are great recruiters in college football, or maybe they're good at recruiting free agents in the pros. You have organizational CEO types. You have guys that make great in-game decisions. You have great game planners. And if a guy's really good, you have great leaders of men. And then I got to thinking, so what is Mike McCarthy's strength? I couldn't come up with one. I could not come up with one. So you have little Abner, Jerry Jones, and I don't doubt his sincerity here. We all want this. He is desperate to get back to a Super Bowl. It's like a Captain Ahab quest with him now. And I get that. I respect it. And you want the owner of your football team to feel that way. So the question is that guy going to get you there? And if he's not, what are you waiting for? I'm not being at all disrespectful here, but Jerry Jones is at least 437 years old. This ain't going to go on that much longer. There's a certain urgency here. Absolutely. He's got to go, eat the money. Dan Quinn's your man.
Paul, since that catastrophe over the weekend for the Cowboys greats have come out and been pretty critical of the team. Troy Aikman talking about their lack of usage when it came to CeeDee Lamb. Michael Irving saying that CD, Ezekiel Elliott, and Dak Prescott didn't even show up for the boys. Do you think Jerry Jones is taking any of this into consideration and any of this into heart in possibly making a change, whether it be Mike McCarthy or even something smaller that maybe we don't really notice?
Yeah, I do think it's going to have some influence. And, you know, in the litany you were just describing, also, Drew Pearson wore out Dak. I mean, he wore him out. And that's a little uncharacteristic for Drew. So, yeah, I think that is going to have some impact here for sure. And then you go back and look at that game once again strategically from last Sunday. Didn't run the ball, couldn't run the ball, did not connect downfield at all, and this was something they just failed to exploit. San Francisco, for all their strengths, the 49er defense has given up more explosive pass plays of 20 yards or longer than any other team in the National Football League. All right, Dallas has got some gazelles. I mean, they got some guys that can run those vertical routes, and Dallas just completely failed to take advantage of that. It was hard to figure out what they were trying to do. Now, contrast that, 49ers playing the Packers tomorrow. All right, so you think Aaron Rodgers is going to miss that opportunity? Do you really? It's like they really don't pay attention to what's in front of them.
Coach A, Paul Alexander of RadicallyRational.com with us. And Paul, if Jerry Jones doesn't do what you suggest he should, and I'm in total agreement with you, I think Shannon is as well, promote Dan Quinn, be bold, usher in a new era for the Dallas Cowboys. If he doesn't, then Dan Quinn's going to have a job, as you mentioned on Monday. You know, within the next week or two, Dan's going to be a head coach somewhere. Maybe Kellen Moore, maybe not. But it would seem to me, Paul, you look at all of the Cowboys who are now free agents, and if indeed Mike McCarthy's the head coach next season, you are going to have a downgrade at defensive coordinator. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe elevate another defensive coach. You may have the same problem with offensive coordinator. So it would seem to me, Paul, your coaching staff will be downgraded. Your players may be, depending on how you fill those gaps with free agency or in the draft. I got a feeling, Paul, this will not be as good of a Dallas Cowboys football team next season. Do you have that feeling as well?
Absolutely. I think that's virtually guaranteed for all the reasons you just mentioned. The Cowboys roster next year will not be as good as it was in the year that was just concluded. And there's going to be chaos in that coaching staff. And you mentioned Quinn and the fact that he's going to have his choice of some head coaching opportunities here for sure. And check this out. The one I keep hearing the most often is your New York Giants. So you lose Quinn, you lose his stature, you lose his wisdom, you lose his leadership, you lose his assets, you lose what he brings to the table for the Cowboys, and then you got to play him twice a year? Oh. I don't think so.
Paul, after the game for the Dallas Cowboys, there were some images and videos of fans throwing trash. Dak originally thought those fans were throwing the trash at players and was pretty critical of them until during the press conference, someone said, no, they were actually throwing the trash at the refs. He then said, kudos to them. He has since been fined $25,000 by the NFL. It's not the first time that we've seen this in sport where you say something bad about the refs, it comes back to bite you in the form of a fine. But this was in jest, right? That's out of character. It would seem like for Dak to really suggest that fans continue to berate the referees.
Yeah, but you can't have that. And I do want to praise Dak for this. Why can't adults just act like adults? And Dak did. He made a mistake. No, you can't say that because it wasn't just criticizing the officiating. Okay, it was kind of saying that things addressed to them in violence again and throwing things at them. Okay, you're going to get fined. So credit to the NFL for doing that. Big credit for Dak for just being a grown man. He issued a complete and full and profuse apology. What I did was unacceptable. I was wrong. I'm good with it. I'm absolutely good with it. That has to happen.
Totally agree, Paul. We live in an era where so many people want to double down on their ridiculousness. Certainly, Antonio Brown is a poster child for that. But not just somebody as extreme as Antonio Brown. In our era of social media, so few people say I was wrong. I apologize and say it sincerely. And I really felt like you, Paul, that Dak Prescott was very sincere in his apology. Paul Alexander from radicallyrational.com. Paul, I am hoping and trusting, and you are a football purist. I would imagine you feel the same way. We got 4 great divisional football games beginning tomorrow. I am hoping that they ease my pain of the Cowboys' loss. I hope that it helps cleanse my soul from the darkness that was the loss to the 49ers. Of these games this weekend, is there one in particular that you are most excited about?
Excited about all 4 for sure. But my goodness, the Chiefs and the Bills, could we have anything better than that? I mean, what could you possibly want in a matchup or a football game, divisional playoff game? What could you possibly want that would exceed that? I mean, that is just absolutely must-see, once-in-a-lifetime TV. That's great. And saying that, I'm not at all diminishing my interest or excitement about the other 3 games.
Well, with you saying that, Paul, I'd like you to know that yesterday I did convince James for the rest of the playoffs to be a part with me and join in Bills Mafia as we cheer on the Bills to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. I'm hoping that I can get you to come along with us.
You know what? I may have mentioned this before. There are 2 fan bases in the National Football League that are just wonderful. They're just absolutely wonderful fans and wonderful people. One of those groups is KC Chiefs fans, and the other one is the Bills Mafia. I went to a Bills-Ravens game a few years ago, and I totally neutral. I don't have a big emotional attachment there or anything. And there are all these Bills fans up there, and they were just a hoot. They were so much fun. They were not belligerent. They weren't looking for trouble. They had their Bills jerseys on. They were buying everybody beer, whether it was a Ravens fan or what it was. Just guys and girls having a good time, and Chiefs fans are like that. So from the standpoint of the 2 fan bases, you can't go wrong there. That's for sure.
Well,
yeah, Bills fans certainly, Paul. Bills fans certainly long suffering. I think of those consecutive Super Bowls they lost in the Marv Levy, Jim Kelly era. It would be most fitting if the Bills, came through and won a Super Bowl this year. I think of another long suffering fan base, Paul. It is the Cincinnati Bengals. And, Joe Burrow, I saw him late in the regular season perform very, very well against the Kansas City Chiefs at Cincinnati. I think this guy's got an opportunity. He already won 1 playoff game. If he can go win another one on the road at Nashville against the Tennessee Titans, I think Joe Burrow, as young as he is, might be establishing himself as one of the future elite quarterbacks in the NFL if he's not there already. Your thoughts on Joe Burrow?
I'm smiling right now just as you mentioned his name. Joe Burrow has become instantly a favorite of mine. He is the baby-faced assassin. But that guy is the goods. And you talk about tough. And one of the reasons why I'm maybe a little skeptical about the Bengals' chances tomorrow is that as great as Burrow has been, he is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. And he has been hit more often than any other quarterback. You're going to get hit in Nashville. That would be my concern, along with the fact that the Titans are rested now, and it looks like King Henry is back on the throne.
Paul, we're going to pause for a quick moment because we got the opportunity now for our listeners to put $1,000 in their hand with the 7:00 hour keyword. Here it is.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Family. That's family. Enter it on our station website now.
Keyword for 7:00 hour is family. You can enter that at ticket760.com as well as am1300thezone.com and double your chances to put $1,000 in your hand. Coach, you talk about the Bengals and worried about Joe Burrow. Of course, he suffered a horrific injury last year. I believe that play came on a sack because he is put on his back so often. But I kind of feel bad for the Bengals and Titans because, yes, they each want to win the game this weekend. But it kind of seems inevitable that no matter who they would match up against, be it the Bills or the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, that they're both doomed to not make it to the Super Bowl.
I wouldn't be completely sure of that. because if that comes to pass, you're going to be playing in Nashville. And there is a formula for Titans football, and they would be the so-called awkward matchup there. I mean, certainly, you know, if I had to empty my wallet of the $5 that's in there and bet it, I would probably bet on either the Chiefs or the Bills. But I think the idea that the Titans could not win that game is maybe a little misguided.
Coach A, Paul Alexander from radicallyrational.com. Paul, I often talk about a rule of thumb in the National Football League that I see as fairly consistent, and certainly in the postseason. It often seems that the team with the best quarterback tends to win the football game. That pretty much, it was consistent last weekend, except for Cowboys-Niners. I believe Dak Prescott, a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, which to me lends even more anguish over the fact that the Cowboys let that game get away. I think Garoppolo, and I was during your color cast, which was fantastic. You said it all 3 quarters. You said, just wait, Garoppolo's going to make the big mistake. It's coming. It's coming. You were right. It did. But we also got a big Dak pick that led to 7 points for the 49ers. That being said, Lambeau Field, and I'm with you. I want to see all the games. I'm excited. My marquee game is Bills versus Chiefs, but I am so intrigued. 1 and 1A would be Lambeau Field, Packers versus the 49ers, especially with the injury to Nick Bosa, Wagner injured. The Niners are banged up, and Garoppolo supposedly has a shoulder issue in addition to that thumb. I mean, the Niners can't do this again, can they? They won at the Rams. They won at the Cowboys. You don't see them beating Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers tomorrow night, do you?
Well, think about this a little bit. First of all, I just checked about 30 minutes ago. Bosa's fine. He's playing. He has cleared the protocol. Ward's okay. He says it's a miracle. I feel absolutely great. Garoppolo, what difference is going to make? Jimmy Garoppolo is Jimmy Garoppolo. But here's the thing, and as Cowboy fans, we just saw this. The very same formula that they used to beat the Cowboys, and if they had not let the Cowboys back in the game in the second half, that thing would have gotten out of control. Okay, they can use that very same formula, and consider this. Aaron Rodgers is 0-3 in the postseason against San Francisco, and if you remember 2 years ago when the Niners went to the Super Bowl and they played the Packers early in the playoffs, that was one of the most god-awful, bloody, brutal, physical butt weapons I have ever seen. Now, the Packer defense was really bad 2 years ago. And then for a while, it looked like they were getting really good this year. But if you'll check them for the last 6 weeks, they have really fallen off. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Packers in this because I think that Rodgers will hit the vertical shots that Dak missed. But it's going to be the same formula for the 49ers. Run the ball, get ahead of the chains, be looking at 2nd and 6, control the clock. Rodgers can't hurt you if he's standing there shivering on the sidelines. And the other thing is they're going to be able to get some pressure on Rodgers just with their front four. They're not going to have to go with a lot of big blitzes, which means they can play everybody back there in zone and keep everything in front of them. I'm taking the Packers, but this would not shock me in the slightest, and the Niners absolutely have the ability to get that done.
My goodness, it's going to be just so much fun to watch. Finally, Paul, one game we have not covered yet. Want to get your thoughts on it. Early game on Sunday, 2:00 on NBC. Buccaneers hosting the Rams. Of course, the Buccaneers defending Super Bowl champions, Tom Brady. But the Rams against Arizona, Matthew Stafford and company seem to be hitting on all cylinders. How do you see this game playing out?
I've tried to be so rational in this conversation, radically so even. Now you're going to think I've lost my mind. I think the Rams are going to win the football game. And I realize that means I'm counting on Matthew Stafford to have 2 good playoff games back-to-back. I realize I'm on really thin ice there. I just think the Bucs have been too injured. I think they've been through too much. I think there are too many distractions. And I also think that finally, and it came late in the season when they would want this to happen, we're finally starting to see all of that just raw talent that the Rams have amassed come into play here. I'm taking the Rams.
My goodness, that is a bold prediction. He is Coach A, Paul Alexander. And Paul, I highly recommend, and I have been privileged to have appeared on your podcast, which is part of your great website, radicallyrational.com. People who love your sports takes, you got a sports blog, you talk sports, but you talk so much more. For people who have yet to sample, and they should, radicallyrational.com, what would they find at your website?
What we find, I always try to boil this down to its lowest common denominator, just so I'll understand it. Essentially, we're tired of crazy. Okay, crazy ain't cool. There's nothing cool about crazy. So we're bringing facts back into fashion, making simple sanity sexy again. We're calling out crazies. We're just done with it. And I appreciate you asking, Chris. And if everybody would like to, or if you would like to, if you go over to the news blog today at radicallyrational.com, it's just a little something I whipped up about an hour ago. I call it Fulton County Blues.
Beautiful. I'm going to go check that out during the break. Radicallyrational.com. Coach A, Paul Alexander, love talking football with you. Let's do this again next week. Enjoy the big football weekend. Thanks so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Happy football.
Happy football. Those are the two words right there. Happy football. Coach A, Paul Alexander, coming up. I think there'll be some football in our sports history and sports birthdays. Plus, Shannon's weekend salty shakedown is moments away. Then at the top of the hour, we go on the record. Paul picking the Rams over the Buccaneers. Shannon and I will pick all 4 games against the spread. Lots coming at you. Dave OEHLER making the show go. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Little Purple Haze on the way out. Mr. Jimi Hendrix. Our thanks to Paul Alexander. Gonna need some ice in a moment for my tea. I gotta check something out here. Yeah, I need to take a look at that. First, okay, I'll do that. One other thing I need to check is All right, I'm going to grab some ice for my Pure Leaf iced tea. Let's see what we got here. All right. Back in a sec. Do I have time? I think I have time. I better fly. I'll be back with some ice. Ice, ice, baby. Thank you, Fred. Yeah, Paul is always both knowledgeable and entertaining, which is a tremendous combination for talk radio and or sports talk radio. He knows how to deliver the goods. My iced tea of choice this morning. Pure Leaf, unsweetened, no sugar. This morning's sanitizer is SB Soapbox Sanitizer. Thank you. And this morning's music, of course, provided by Mr. Loaf, Meatloaf. Something else I miss in the digital age, liner notes and lyrics that I can read through. And credits, so I can see who created the music, who produced it, who played each instrument. Now, the best was vinyl albums. Cool, thank you. Dave coming back with some meatloaf. Hopefully, we won't be ejected for it like we were earlier in the show. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Sony Music. Thanks for nothing. Woo! Meatloaf. And that would be from the Rocky Horror Picture Show soundtrack, which I saw Meatloaf play Eddie. Saw that a few times in high school. That was a big deal. At midnight movies in the late 1970s and early 80s. To go to
And Chris, who did you dress up as?
I never dressed up. I would yell things at the screen. I would throw rice
stuff.
I just, at that time in 1978, Dave, for me to dress up as Tim Curry's Frankenfurter in the high heels, bustier, and thigh-high nylons and garter belt. I wasn't there yet with my adventurousness with wardrobe. We're still a little, prudish, I think, as South Texans.
So I saw it in the late 80s, and it was probably I know it's the only movie that I've ever been checked for weapons going into.
Wow.
So, they didn't care if you brought in rice or toast or, stuff you could throw, but weapons, no.
You want to avoid weapons. And I mean, while kids were crazy in that movie when I was in high school, I mean, they were never, and I understand the theater being careful. And God help us after Aurora, Colorado, many years after that, and horrible tragedies that have happened in theaters. I get it now, but luckily back in the day, kids were just being goofy and not being violent.
And God knows what everybody was doing before they made it to the movie theater at midnight.
True. Yeah, it tended to be a midnight movie, so you were pretty well lit by the time the movie began. All right, so and if you're just tuning in, Meatloaf has passed away overnight at the age of 74, and for many reasons. Yeah, I grew up with a lot of his music. I purchased and have listened to a lot of his music over the years. I'm a fan. I will always be a fan. And he was born Marvin Lee Aday in Dallas, Texas. He went to North Texas State University. Somebody in here on our live feed said that he was a classmate at North Texas of Don Henley. That's not in his Wikipedia profile. Possible. I don't know. I'd have to check Don Henley's age and see if they could have been classmates at about the same time, but they certainly both went to North Texas. So that's an interesting part of his past. In a moment, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Don't forget, just after the top of the hour, we go on the record with our Football Friday picks against the spread for the weekend NFL divisional playoff games. But before we present unto you Shannon's Salty Shakedown, how about some sports birthdays? And this day in sports history. This day in 1973, it was the 23rd NFL Pro Bowl at Texas Stadium in Irving, just outside Dallas. The AFC defeated the NFC 33-28, and your MVP, running back from the Buffalo Bills, O.J. Simpson. And Juice was kind enough not to hurt anybody or
I'm just saying,
or bring a gun or anything. So way to go, O.J. Woo! A dark day for me on this day in 1979. Super Bowl 13, the Orange Bowl in Miami. Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Dallas Cowboys 35-31. Roger to the end zone. Jackie Smith hits him between the 8 and the 1, and Jackie dropped the ball. Now, that happened much earlier, and the Cowboys didn't lose because of that. It hurt. They could have gotten 7. They only got a field goal. Terry Bradshaw was your MVP. Speaking of the Steelers, on this day in 1992, Bill Cowher became the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, only the second head coach since Chuck Noll took over that team in 1970. And finally, on this day in 2010, LA Lakers forward Kobe Bryant becomes the youngest NBA player to reach the 25,000 point mark. He did it at the age of 31 and 151 days. He beat Wilt Chamberlain by 35 days. You talk about how prolific Kobe was in scoring. He was on a Wilt Chamberlain pace, and even better than Wilt as far as reaching the 25,000 point plateau in the NBA. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1940, golfing legend Jack Nicklaus. 18 major titles, 13 PGA Tour titles. Jack Nicklaus, born on this day in 1940 in Columbus, Ohio. Born on this day in 1953, sports owner, American business magnate, Microsoft co-founder and owner Paul Allen, who owned the Portland Trail Blazers, the Seattle Seahawks. He was born in Seattle, Washington on this day in 1953. Paul Allen passed away in 2018. And finally, born on this day in 1963 in Lagos, Nigeria, a dream was born. Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon would become a Hall of Fame NBA center with the Houston Rockets, won Olympic gold in 1996. Happy birthday, Hakeem Olajuwon, Paul Allen, and Jack Nicklaus. There you have it, your sports birthdays and your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here's your weekend salty shakedown.
One thing about me, Chris, is I love fried chicken. Can never have too much of the stuff. I get to points where I just crave it, and I've got to have it. And so I was very excited to see that Austin, Texas will be receiving their very own Shaq's Big Chicken. We talked about the restaurant a few months back when he was opening another location. We went through the menu and all of the delicious fried chicken sandwich offerings that they have. And now Austin is getting one, but it's not getting one just anywhere. It'll be opening this spring in the brand new Moody Center, which makes sense, right? Shaq, basketball, put it in a basketball arena. So I guess you can only get it during events like concerts and games and whatever else that Moody Center will feature. But I've got this question for you here. One, do you think that because it will be in a basketball arena and it's a brand new arena, it's a giant opening, we've got Matthew McConaughey, that Shaq will make a visit and be slinging his own chicken sandwiches at some point? And two, given that it is Austin, and DKR and Q2 Stadium have both done a great job with this of bringing in vendors and giving restaurants that are local to the city places to sell their food. You can get Bao at Austin FC games. You can get Pluckers at both DKR and Q2. You can get Taco Deli, Double Dave's Pizza, lots of great local offerings, Torchy's among others, at both stadiums. I like the idea of having Shaq, right? Because it is Shaq and we love him. And it is basketball, and that goes hand in hand with the new Moody Center. But is it taking up a space of maybe a local chicken joint or some other joint that might be deserving of a space? Chris, I pose those two questions to you.
I don't think I mean, another local joint, while they should be celebrated, I mean, Shaq's, that's just such a, Shaq is such a national and global icon, and now his chicken coming in. To your earlier question, will Shaq sling chicken and show up? I would hope he would do it, opening night and just kind of make it a big deal. Like the first night the Moody Center has an event and Shaq's chicken is there. That would be cool. And as you know, and as you've reported, Shaq has made appearances in Austin at events. So I would hope he would do that. But, hopefully he's not taking up space where somebody is not getting their opportunity. And if that's the case, hopefully that local vendor would get other opportunities elsewhere.
The only reason I would see Shaq maybe not slinging chicken there specifically is because, those little vendor spots, they're really tiny. I mean, there's not a lot of room to work with. It'd be kind of hilarious to see Shaq standing behind one of those counters just passing out some chicken. But maybe it'll happen. But again, that'll be opening this spring when the Moody Center opens. Of course, George Strait, Willie Nelson, among others, going to be putting on a concert to officially christen the brand new University of Texas Moody Center. All right, moving on. We're going to keep it in the basketball realm. Chris, I didn't know this was a thing. And so that's why I want to talk about it now, because I find it crazy. And I'm not a test taker. I don't like taking tests. I get nervous. So I try to avoid them at all costs. unless I'm playing trivia, of course, it's completely different. But Duke basketball, they have what is called camping season, which I guess is towards the later half of the season when they start playing some really high-octane opponents and within their conference. And so students will camp out at Cameron Indoor to make sure that they get into a game. That date this year is supposedly the evening of January 23rd when camping season begins. But the issue is they only allow 70 tents on the property. I guess, I don't know, they can't, fire code for outside, I guess. You can't have so many people out there. Only 70 groups, 70 tents are available to camp. And this year, 170 groups signed up to go camping at Cameron Indoor to get tickets to basketball games of the Blue Devils. And so what they do at Duke is they host a night. It took place this week, last Wednesday. These 170 groups showed up to take a Duke basketball test. And this test, which takes an hour, has 67 questions, and you get 2 points for every question. So nothing taken away from you. You only get points when you get something right. Some of the questions from this year's test, which is available online if you really want to go test your knowledge to see if you would be able to camp out in front of Cameron Indoor for big time Duke games. Which Duke games were or was canceled this season due to NCAA COVID protocols? You have to give the opponent and the date. Which Duke games, what date do we play UNC at home this year? Countdown to Craziness 2021 marked the first time the Cameron Indoor Stadium hosted a sold-out crowd in how many days? I mean, these are really specific questions. I know Duke is an incredible school. Tons and tons of smart people go there, so maybe this isn't too hard for them. But I could barely study for tests in college. Now you want me to go do this as well and have 67 answers worth of Duke basketball knowledge just somewhere in my brain so then I can go and camp out at the end of January and throughout February for a game? I don't think so. Listen, I love the culture. I love the vibe. I love the excitement, but that's just not something that I'd be able to handle. Chris, if this was USC, you're back in college. They've got a big time game coming up, but your only opportunity to get into that game was to take a test about your basketball program. Do you think, A, you'd get enough points to make it into the top 70 out of 170 contestants? And if you did, are you willing to weather whatever weather presents itself? Because I feel like it's cold up there where Duke is, especially with what we're already experiencing right now in Texas.
Yeah, well, on the live video feed, Amber asks a vital question. You know, when you take this test, can you like Google the answers on your phone? Because I mean, some of those, you know, what games were canceled and stuff, you could just Google Duke's basketball schedule to answer them. I don't know if they make you put your smart devices down and just do it from memory. When I was at USC, I was pretty into the football team and the basketball team. I think I'd have done better than average. I don't know that I'd ace the test or have been, you know, one of the top test takers, but I've never heard of this either. This is part of what I love about the Salty Shakedown. I often learn things I never knew, but this is crazy. But I mean, my God, you know, Duke basketball, you talk about hardcore and tradition. I would imagine there's some hardcore students who are probably dying to take the test and dying to camp out for tickets. So I kind of get it. I can understand it.
Again, I admire it. I'd love bucket list sport opportunity would be to take in a game at Cameron Indoor, but I'm not camping out for it. That is certainly not ever going to happen. Not in my lifetime. All right, Chris, our final story today takes us back to the Cowboys and that Cowboys game over the weekend. And also just a shout out to Raven on the radio, who is on local station San Antonio 96.1 now. Yes. I saw this story because she shared it on Twitter. There was a lot of heartbreak at that Dallas Cowboys games, and opponents and those Cowboys haters, they love to screen grab the shots of upset fans in the crowd. And there's one shot in particular. It took place in the fourth quarter with 1 minute and 21 left. Dallas at 17, San Francisco 23. And it features a gentleman holding and consoling a young lady who I think was featured earlier in the broadcast where she was crying. I guess this photo that was taken to make fun of Cowboys fans ended up being sent to this gentleman's now ex-girlfriend because she said, "Hi, everyone. Whoa. Yes, this is my trash blank ex who is a serial cheater. And this is his side chick. We are no longer together and we haven't been for a while, but he continues to lie all day, every day, just like he lied about this trip when he swore it was a guy's trip. He told me that he had cut this girl off, but clearly that was another lie. I normally wouldn't post my business, but literally my phone is blowing up. And while I appreciate you guys sending me this picture, I don't need to see it anymore. Chris, this Dallas Cowboys game against the 49ers this past weekend was the most watched wild card game in the last 7 years with 41.496 million viewers. If you're gonna do something you're not supposed to do, maybe you don't go to a wild card game featuring the Dallas Cowboys. Prime time. What an idiot. I mean, cheater's gonna cheat, I guess, but can you do it better than that?
My goodness. And wow. I did not know that. I saw the woman crying. I saw it live when I was watching the game. And even the announcers were going, hey, there's still a lot of time left in the fourth quarter here. Why is she crying? The Cowboys have a shot.
Maybe she found out she was the side chick.
Yeah. For the dude to get busted for cheating, for saying, nope, I'm going with the guys. And wow, that is classic. And I mean, you think about that guy adding insult to injury if he's a Cowboys fan.
I know it.
Whoa.
Can we revoke?
That is a tremendous story.
Let's just revoke his Cowboys fandom card right now on the Chris Duel Show. He can never go back to AT&T Stadium ever again, sir. You've crossed the line. You've gone too far. But there it is. Today's salty shakedown.
Wow, what a tremendous salty shakedown. But you think about the cheater dude, Shannon. Again, though, how many people went to that game? 90,000. I mean, Jerry World holds over 100,000. Maybe there were 100,000 there. The odds that he's going to get on camera, yet he did, and then this, and then her response goes viral enough that you are broadcasting her words on talk radio out of Austin and San Antonio. Yeah. That is wild. That's a great story.
Listen, you're right. There's all those people there. The odds of you being featured on national television are slim, but they're not zero. They're not zero.
True. Yes. You roll the dice. You cheat at your own risk. Ed Shannon says now Mike McCarthy is breaking up relationships. Another casualty of the Cowboys' loss. That is amazing. Outstanding as always. Your weekend salty shakedown. But will Shannon's weekend football picks be able to match the salty shakedown? Shannon will go on the record. I will go on the record. We will pick each and every NFL divisional playoff game against the spread. That is coming up next as we continue on a football Friday. Also, the Spurs trying to win 2 in a row tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. We might dive into that a little bit as well. But it's mainly about football, as it should be. Till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Manuel wants the link to that story. We could probably find it. Manuel, I found a link. Let me see how that looks. Now, there's multiple, but let's, I'll throw this one out there. Oh, you already got it. There it is. Shannon already got you the link. So there it is. Cool. All right. I'll make sure my Point spreads are up. They are. Football prophecy coming up in just a few moments. Oh! I'll be back in a sec. Woo! 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 Can you hear me, Dave? Same deal at the end of the show as we planned, and I'll just hit mute on the feed. But let's go out to the montage again, and I'll just wrap it like 1 minute early, a little over 1 minute early. I'll probably, just back time it, and I'll probably just say, we go out to. Okay, cool.
You know, if you want to walk it all the way up, or you want to walk over, walk over it on the view.
I'll probably slightly go over it, but I want to also let it play a bit. We occasionally get, and I don't know what these mean. I understand FYI, but VOA from Haley Klein. I don't. And different names on YouTube come in with those unusual messages. Oh well. Welcome anyway. Russian bots. Is that it? Is that what that is? Jason's saying that's Russian bots. Wouldn't surprise me. So weird. I mean, that whole aspect of the internet is just crazy. All right. I have my point spreads in front of me. Guess I'll put these here. Woo! Well, Packers, Niners, not that far behind Bills, Chiefs in our poll right now. Game you're most excited about, Bills, Chiefs, 43.5%. Niners, Packers, 39.1%. Closer than I thought. Here we go. Woo! Woo!
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side, yeah.
Now, Chris Duel.
We pay tribute to Meatloaf. As we learned overnight, we learned, most of us waking up this morning, that Meatloaf, a Texan and a rock and roll sensation, has passed away at the age of 74. But it is a football Friday, And Meatloaf got his nickname playing football from a football coach. Meatloaf was born Marvin Lee Aday, born in Dallas, Texas, September 27th, 1947. A football coach. Meatloaf was kind of a big dude, as you know, if you've ever seen him. And the football coach called him Meatloaf, and it stuck, and he used that in rock and roll. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. By the way, at the end of the show, a little Meatloaf tribute before we're out of here at 9 o'clock, but that's still several minutes away. We've got a lot of ground to cover. And Shannon, the most important thing we do each week during the football season has got to be our weekend football picks against the spread. How confident are you going into this weekend that you've got a handle on how these games will play out?
Well, last weekend's results, I went 2-4. You, sir, went 4-2. So I'm not feeling the most confident. But I do feel good that, again, my Bills are still in it. So you can only imagine which way I'm going to pick that one. But I'm ready. I've got them written down. I'm locked in.
See, and one of the big differences in our record last week was you had confidence in the Dallas Cowboys and you picked the Cowboys. Right. And I did. Well, and two things. A, I didn't have confidence in the Cowboys, but B, and I also had hoped that it would be a reverse jinx, that I usually suck so bad at my football picks. I thought, okay, I suck at picking against the spread. So if I pick the Niners, then certainly I'll be, the football gods will smite me, and that would mean the Cowboys would win. So I'd be fine with that. But no, both things happened. So anyway, there's that. But all right, we will take a look at all 4 divisional football games. In fact, let's do this thing now. Dave OEHLER, how about some football picking music? Yes. That'll get you in the mood. That gets me in the mood. NFL Films music. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, let's go in order. 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. The first game of the weekend will be tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. on CBS from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. Weather forecast, partly cloudy and 37 degrees. Titans with the number 1 overall seed in the AFC hosting slinging Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. How do you see this one playing out?
I got to go chalk on this one, Chris. The number 1 seed against the Bengals, who, yes, snuck by the Raiders last week, but it wasn't as convincing as a win as maybe some thought it would be. And as Paul Alexander noted, Joe Burrow gets sacked a lot. He's got a lot of great weapons around him, but if he doesn't have time to get them the ball, then it's not going to look well or go well for the Bengals. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Titans at -3.5 this weekend.
Shannon going with Titans. They're well rested. Derrick Henry should be at running back. We'll see if he's as good as he usually is coming off of that injury. All right, Shannon, and I'll pick this game, Bengals-Titans. This is kind of irrational. It's just a hunch. And I am mindful, and you just cited Paul Alexander made a great point less than an hour ago. Bengals give up a lot of sacks. Joe Burrow winds up on his back a lot. I got a feeling about Joe Burrow that he is emerging as a future elite quarterback in the NFL. And if he wins this one and wins 2 playoff games in a row and gets the Bengals to the AFC Championship game, we might start calling him an elite quarterback in the NFL. I got a good feeling about Joe Burrow. So against all good judgment, I am going to pick the Cincinnati Bengals. I am going to get the 3.5 points that you're willing to lay down. So give me Bengals plus 3.5. Joe Burrow to shock it won't be that much of a shocker, but Joe Burrow to semi-shock the world and get the win against the Titans in the first game on Saturday, which moves us to a heck of a game. I'm really excited about the night game from Lambeau Field. Forecast cloudy and 12 degrees Saturday night Green Bay Packers hosting the San Francisco 49ers. Shannon, your thoughts on this one?
Well, I am disappointed that it won't be the Cowboys traveling to Green Bay to have their hearts broken yet again by Aaron Rodgers and company. But I do think Aaron Rodgers, nonetheless, will continue to break hearts. It'll just be that of the 49ers and their fans. The weather is going to be ridiculous. I saw someone on our live feed earlier say it's possibly going to be minus 17 degrees. No, thank you. I can barely handle the 30 degrees that it is outside right now. Again, I would just quit. I know it's playoff football, but oh my goodness, no thank you. I think those California boys are going to have a harder time with that. Jimmy Garoppolo suffering from a couple of injuries. He's pretty banged up. Aaron Rodgers, that Packers team, they had the bye week. They should be rested. I think Aaron Rodgers has this kind of destiny-like moment for this season. Given how the offseason went, I don't think he's going to let it go to waste. I've got to take the Packers here at minus 5.5.
Shannon goes with the Packers at minus 5.5. I side with you on this, Shannon. I know Paul brought up the Niners and Aaron Rodgers' record against the Niners and the Packers. Not a lot of success over the years against the Niners in the playoffs. But I agree with you. I think Aaron Rodgers and this Packer team is kind of on a mission after getting to 2 NFC championship games and failing. Plus I got my preseason pick was Packers versus Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So I should stick with that because I felt that prophecy coming into the season. I think 5.5 might be a lot to lay down as you just did, but I'm going to do it. Especially, and I go with my rule of thumb. It usually holds out in the playoffs. Better quarterback wins the game. So Packers to win the game. Just the question, will they win by 5.5? And I think they will. I think Garoppolo in the cold is going to screw up. Even though we heard from Paul earlier that Nick Bosa is a go for the San Francisco 49ers at Lambeau, I just think Green Bay is going to do what they do. They're 8-0 at home this year at Lambeau Field. I think that will continue. I think they're going to win by a touchdown. So I think they're going to cover the 5.5. You and I are in accord. Green Bay minus 5.5. That would round out tomorrow's games, Saturday and Saturday night, which would take us to Sunday. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the early game, 2:00 on NBC from Raymond James Stadium. 1 hour ago, Paul Alexander, who knows his football, picking the Rams to win this game and advance to the NFC Championship game. Shannon, are you as bold and convinced as Paul Alexander is that the Brady magic will stop here in this game on Sunday?
I don't know that I am, Chris. Last season, the Bucs were kind of the odd team out. They were on the road throughout the playoffs, and they make it to the Super Bowl, and they get to play at home for that game. And we know how that one turned out. They're at home against the Rams. I didn't believe much in the Rams going against the Cardinals. They proved me wrong. But I think if Tom Brady has anything to say about it, we talked about Aaron Rodgers and his destiny for the season. I think Tom Brady is destined to meet up once again with Aaron Rodgers. I'd like to see that matchup happen. And so for that reason, I'm taking the Bucs in this one at minus 2.5.
Tampa Bay minus 2.5. Shannon going with the Bucs. And that 2.5 is really interesting as a spread because as we know, Las Vegas and the odds makers tend to give 3 points for a home field advantage. So I think what we're being told here is on a neutral field, the odds makers believe the Rams are a 0.5 point better as a football team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Shannon, I got to be, it's Tom freaking Brady at quarterback. It's the GOAT. And to bet against the GOAT, especially if it's not the Lambeau Field rematch that I think we both envision, I think is foolhardy. I mean, we saw this Rams team just 2 weeks ago completely fold in the second half against the San Francisco 49ers. It is on the road. Buccaneers are getting home cooking. Now, Rams, I'm looking at home and away records. Rams are 7-2 on the road thus far this season, and the Buccaneers 7-1 at home. So that's kind of a wash. But again, 2 words. Tom Brady. I'll give you a third word. GOAT. I can't pick against Brady. I am totally with you. I'm going with Tampa Bay minus the 2.5 to advance to a Lambeau Field showdown and rematch next week against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Shannon, this would then bring us to the marquee matchup, I got to believe, of the weekend, and our poll question today would bear this out among our listeners and viewers who are voting. This is such a delicious matchup. Arguably, perhaps, certainly the 2 hottest teams in the AFC right now, arguably the 2 hottest teams in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Buffalo Bills at Arrowhead Stadium. The evening game, 5:30 kickoff on Sunday night. We know you're a Bills fan, and the line on this one, Kansas City by 1.5. My goodness, your thoughts on this one?
Kansas City last week started slow against the Steelers, whereas the Bills were hot, and they stayed hot throughout most of that game against the Patriots. I've got to feel like the Bills are coming in with a similar game plan. They've already beaten Kansas City once this year. I think they can do it again, so I am taking my Buffalo Bills at plus 1.5.
Wow, Buffalo plus 1.5. People new to the show may not know Shannon is very good friends and grew up with Buffalo Bills starting center Mitch Morse. We had him on the show before the season. I imagine we'll get him again after the season. Maybe he comes back with a Super Bowl ring on his finger and as a world champion. And Shannon, I mentioned this earlier, and that Buffalo fan base, and they're such great fans, the Bills Mafia, and long-suffering fans. Cowboys fans, we think we're long-suffering. Well, we still have at least some Vince Lombardi trophies we can point to. 2 of them won against the Buffalo Bills. Oh, by the way, but the Buffalo Bills went through those consecutive Super Bowls in the Marv Levy, Jim Kelly era that must have been just so gut-wrenching. So on a certain level, I hope that the Buffalo Bills receive their due and wind up winning the Super Bowl this year. But my preseason Super Bowl pick was Packers versus Chiefs. So I've got to continue to ride the prophecy that I had before the season began. And I do kind of feel like to beat the Chiefs twice at Arrowhead in one season is going to be so tough. And that's a weird little intangible, I think, that works out for the Chiefs in preparation this week. Greg Popovich of the Spurs talks about having the appropriate fear of your opponent. I think the Kansas City Chiefs certainly have an appropriate fear of the Buffalo Bills in preparation for this Sunday night game. So this will be the second game you and I differ on. I'm going to go with the Chiefs minus 1.5. Chiefs to win that game. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how it plays out on Sunday night. So Shannon, you got all the picks. We will post these. Do you want to recap our NFL prophecy for the weekend?
Yes, sir. First game of the weekend, Bengals versus the Titans. I'm taking the Titans at minus 3.5. Chris is taking the Bengals at plus 3.5. Saturday's closer, 49ers at the Packers. I've got Packers as well as Chris at minus 5.5. Rams versus Bucks over in Florida. We're both taking the Bucks. We picture a Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers NFC Championship rematch. And finally, the Bills and the Chiefs is once again where Chris and I differ. I am taking my Buffalo Bills at plus 1.5. Chris going with the Chiefs at minus 1.5. And when we have Mitch back on at the end of the season, I will tell him about this moment that Chris didn't believe in him. Him personally. He's the only reason why he went with the Chiefs.
Damn it. He's because you know him. He's my favorite Buffalo Bill now. Plus, due to you, he's a friend of the show, so I do like him. Quick break right now. We're a minute late, but hey, we're in overtime for the contest. You're going to get a keyword. You could win somebody's going to win $1,000 right now. It may as well be you. Here comes the keyword. It goes something like this.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Pay. That's pay. Enter it on our station website now.
Pay, P-A-Y. And Shannon and I recommend you double your chance to win. Go to both websites. Go to am1300thezone.com and ticket760.com for your chance to win. Now, Shannon, one of these games, the first game we picked, it's the first game tomorrow. Tennessee Titans, number 1 overall seed in the AFC. They've had a week off to rest, hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. And Titans have an interesting change in their ticket policy involving this game. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so if you bought your tickets firsthand, they're not resale, you're good, you're fine. But if you are specifically a Bengals fan and you're wanting to plan a Tennessee weekend and you want to go to this game and watch your Bengals take on the Tennessee Titans and potentially head to a championship game for the AFC, it's going to be harder to get your hands physically on those tickets because the Titans have changed the resale policy. Tickets can be purchased in advance, but they cannot be officially transferred until 24 hours before kickoff. So they are purposely making it more difficult for those that think they want to travel, think they want to have a weekend in town, to possibly come in and get tickets because they figure with a shorter window to actually physically say, yes, I do have tickets for this game, people will wait to buy tickets, which then again would maybe push them to say, you know what, I'll just stay home and watch this one on TV. I think this is pretty interesting. You know, we talked a couple weeks ago about the first Rams versus Cardinals game. I believe it was when Kelly Stafford was like, please don't give your tickets to, or maybe this was actually last week for last week's matchup, but Kelly Stafford, wife of quarterback Matthew Stafford, was pleading on social media that anybody who was a Rams fan who was selling their tickets for whatever reason, just made sure they were selling them to Rams fans and not Cardinal fans so that they'd keep home field advantage. But that's not always the case, right? People, they want their money back. They want to make a profit. At the end of the day, most people probably don't care who they're selling them to. But in this case, the Titans do. They've implemented this policy. As someone who doesn't care about getting tickets to this game, I like it. Would I be kind of annoyed by it if I was going to this game? Yes. And I may also be, as a Titans fan, who would trying to resell my tickets because, I don't know, I maybe there's a COVID issue in my household. I think it's best not to go to the game anymore with all those thousands of people. I'm going to sell my tickets. Well, now my window has also been limited to 24 hours, and my opportunity to possibly sell and then transfer those tickets is also out the window.
I don't know how I feel about this. On a certain, I think if your fan base is rabid about your team, then that fan base should show up, and there shouldn't be a problem. I remember years ago, the Arizona Cardinals, started asking their fans when the Cowboys came to town, because notoriously, whenever the Cowboys played the Cardinals, there'd be louder and some seemingly more Cowboy fans than Cardinal fans. And I always thought, well, that's a you problem. That means your fan base is not as rabid about your team. Since then, Jerry Jones built Jerry World, and the Cowboys had kind of an issue by not really having the home field that they have had. But I also think this kind of sucks for fans who buy those tickets, Shannon. I know some Cowboys fans I know some guys who live in San Antonio, and I know one guy in particular who is a season ticket holder. And what he does every year, he gets his Cowboy season tickets. They're really good seats. But to finance his doing this, because they're expensive seats, he'll pick his 3 or 4 favorite games, and he will sell a few of those games on the open market. And by doing that, he makes some money off of it. He finances his ability to go to Cowboys games. So the tickets kind of pay for themselves. And I almost feel like if you're a consumer, if you're a fan, you should have the right to do that. So I don't know if I like this. What about you?
Yeah, part of the fun of these games is the rivalry, right? And seeing the opposing fans, as long as everyone's well behaved. I'm reading a little bit more about it. Bengals fans and tailgating groups, they're gonna do an invasion tailgate prior to the game. They've already got a bar locked down in Nashville for the Friday night beforehand. So I think whether they get to go to the game or not, there's going to be plenty of Bengals fans. But as someone who has attended all of the Red River shootouts and somehow always ends up with a Sooner sitting behind me, because for those who've ever watched the game, you know Sooners are on one side of the 50, University of Texas fans on the other. It is very uncomfortable when you have some Crimson Red sitting behind you and you're kind of just like, how did you get here? Why did you willingly buy these tickets if you know what section it's in? It's not like, I would assume, going to an away stadium that you're not familiar with and kind of knowing or not knowing that, oh, I didn't realize my tickets were in the home team section. I just got tickets because I wanted tickets. For that particular game in Dallas, I'm like, why would you do this? But for this, playoffs, the big time fans, they want to see their team play and they want to see them win. If they're going to if they let them get tickets and let them sit wherever they're going to sit. I don't know. I
agree.
I get the tactic, but we'll see how it works out. I'm almost now hoping we see lots of orange in the stands just to be like, well, it didn't work.
Yeah, it almost seems like a cry for help by the Titans. It almost seems like Weasley to me. All right, coming up, we will talk more NFL playoffs. It's a big weekend. We'll touch upon the San Antonio Spurs. A couple of things coming up tonight as they take on the Brooklyn Nets. A, Spurs could win 2 in a row and 3 out of 4 if they win. B, Coach Greg Popovich, 9 more wins, and he will have the most wins of any coach in NBA history, regular and postseason. So we're in single digits on the Pop Victory Tour and the Victory Watch as well. She is Shannon. Oh, and by the way, we'll pay some tribute to Meatloaf, who passed away overnight at the age of 74. Lots more coming up in the final half hour on the Chris Duel Show. Hello, Frank Ramirez. Yeah, we're getting a lot of Russian. All right, now I don't understand. More of these Russian bots are there. There's a Russian bot there. There's a Russian bot with a. I mean, you look at the name and that does look Russian, but I don't understand what they are achieving by putting these weird little comments via YouTube on here. I don't understand. I'm sure it means something, but I don't know what it accomplishes. I think it's weird, but it's all weird. Welcome in, Frank Ramirez, by the way. I think I said that. Welcome in, everybody who might be here right now. If you're just tuning in, I am bummed out that Meatloaf has passed away. I woke up. Yeah, I keep my phone on airplane mode when I sleep because I track a lot of different websites, mainly sports, for the show. So if I keep my phone on, it will vibrate all night long and I won't be able to sleep. Worse than that, my wife won't be able to sleep. Don't want to do that to her. But so as soon as I got up, though, I saw the Meatloaf news. I am a huge fan. I love Meatloaf. So I grabbed a lot of my Meatloaf CDs. I got a bunch more. I just those that I could just pull off the shelf, and I was listening to Meatloaf on the way in to work, and I was listening to Bad Out of Hell 2, which is this one, and the first track is I'd Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That. And just listening to the production, and it's so good. And it's so theatrical, as so many of Meatloaf's songs with Jim Steinman were. And just different piano and electric guitar and sound effects and a chorus and a choir backing up Meatloaf and a female vocal near the end of the song. And then Meatloaf's voice. Dude was such a talent and so unique and different. And that's part of what his magic was he was so different. So, wow. See, when I saw the reports, Gordon, and thank you for that, this morning, there was no cause of death listed. And, and now as you mentioned, the New York Post reporting, it was he was critically ill with COVID-19. That's so awful and so sad that he becomes yet another COVID casualty. And again, and I keep underscoring this for everybody because I know people and I've heard of people, but some I know who have been fully vaccinated and boosted are getting COVID. And I mean, it is relentless. It is brutal. It's awful. So, get vaccinated, get boosted. It betters your chances. That's according to science and medicine. Secondly, stay vigilant. Yeah, Jorge, I'm doing that as well. As soon as I hop into my, it's this one is in my car right now. I was listening to it on the, I took it out of the CD case, so it's in my car right now. It'll be cranking when I get back into the car. So yeah, I will be in meatloaf mode all day, if not all weekend. So yeah, it is a great album. You know, the original Bat Out of Hell also with Bat Out of Hell, Paradise, By the Dashboard Lights, 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad. And the final track on Bat Out of Hell is called Heaven Can Wait, which is a little known Meatloaf song, but is tremendous. If you've got Spotify or Apple Music or, something you can search the song Heaven Can Wait by Meatloaf. Most people don't know it. It's just a beautiful, heartfelt ballad. Yeah, CD. What is a CD? Yeah, dude, what is a CD? My first Meatloaf album, Bat Out of Hell, I had on 8-track. I had the 8-track at Holmes High School. True story. Yeah, very sad. Yeah, a lot of people. Cool, thank you. And again, I'm going to get out right around 51. So let's see here. Final segment coming. Some meatloaf for you. We celebrate meatloaf. We are sad that meatloaf has passed. Overnight, we lost another legend, the rocker Meatloaf, a Texan born in Dallas, Texas, passed away at the age of 74. And Chris Duel show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, Gordon on our live video feed saying the New York Post is reporting that Meatloaf died of complications from COVID-19. During the show, haven't had a chance to go and run down. When I woke up, Shannon, some of the stories that I was reading were saying that cause of death has not been released by the family. So I haven't personally seen that New York Post story yet, but I know very good source for us in the morning. So I'm assuming that is an accurate, at least reporting from the New York Post, that they're putting that out there. If that were the case, that would be very sad. And again, just a cautionary tale for all of us that this darn awful pandemic is still out there wreaking havoc on people's lives. So just something to be careful of as we go forward.
I've learned a lot about Meatloaf today. It's about all I can contribute to the conversation because I came in here with next to nothing.
A cool dude though, and I would, if you don't know a lot about Meatloaf or you didn't grow up like me listening to Meatloaf, it's a good musical catalog to check out and sample. And again, part of what I loved about him was he was so unique and so different. Cool guy. All right, Shannon.
And he had some pre-existing conditions too. I think in 2018 he came out and said that I'm in bad health and I can't tour anymore. And so he hasn't been in the best health since about 2018.
Yeah, it's
unfortunate.
Very, very sad. On the way out here at the end of the show in a few minutes, we'll give you a little more Meatloaf on the way out, little montage that Dave OEHLER has acquired. Shannon, you brought this up earlier to Paul Alexander, and it is a story, and we've been following the Cowboys and Dak Prescott and his post-game comments about the officials. Dak Prescott voicing support originally in his post-game press conference, obviously right after the loss, heat of the moment. He was still stinging from the loss. As we discussed, Shannon, and we read it when it happened, Dak Prescott apologized publicly for his comments, but the NFL fines him $25,000, which if you're going to fine somebody in the NFL, Shannon, Dak, his contract was 4 years, $160 million, with signing bonus this year. For the season, Dak Prescott made $75 million. Now, I'm not going to pull my calculator out here, but I dare say a $25,000 fine for Dak Prescott, Shannon, for you or me or Dave OEHLER, given our high dollar radio contracts, that would probably be like 25 cents.
Yeah.
For you and me. And again, I'm not saying I support Dak getting fined, but I think I kind of get it when you speak out about officials. Certainly, and to me, it's worse. And again, I thought we covered it. I think Dak was joking at the time. I think it's worse to advocate violence against officials or throwing things at them than actually saying, I think the refs kind of sucked tonight. But so I get it that the NFL felt they had to fine him. But I mean, talk about a slap on the wrist for a $75 million man this season. $25,000 is a slap on the wrist.
Well, and that's just what he made playing. He is the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. And so what did he gets like upwards of 90 million for endorsements? But to me, this is why I'm not a huge fan of the fine. You know, originally he was talking about the trash throwing, thinking that it was towards players. Obviously his demeanor changed when he was told by a reporter that it was for the refs, but referee never came out of Dak's mouth. He just made the jest comment of credit to them. You could almost argue at that point, if you're Dak Prescott, like, oh, I didn't really hear, I didn't really understand what they were saying. I didn't, whatever. Referee, officials, that never came out of my mouth. It didn't until he made that apology, in which he apologized for speaking out of turn in regards to officials and referees of the game and such forth. So I'm almost curious if he doesn't do that apology, where he then puts the two together on his own and not reporter and then a comment, a very short, and I guess you could say deliberate comment, but I almost wonder if the fine would even exist at that point. And again, if the story continues to go on, because the story perpetuated itself the second he put out an apology.
Yeah. Well, but he did the stand-up thing. So you make a good point. You can parse words, and he would have had a legal case to say, hey, I said credit to them. How does that, I did not say credit to them for throwing things at the officials.
Credit to them for being fans, but that's, I could have said more, but I'd already talked about what, I feel like there would have been ways around it until he made that apology and then written apologizing to the refs.
Yeah. But again, though, I do agree, and we said it at the time, stand-up apology. It was a sincere apology. And so many, I used Antonio Brown as an example, and he's a total basket case, so he's probably not a good example. But so many people, Shannon, I think about people in politics and a lot of people in the public eye, and just regular people who are ugly to one another on social media and on Twitter or wherever. It's so rare that people apologize these days. It's so rare for somebody to go, you know what? I thought about that. I was wrong. I blew it. Let me apologize, and let me apologize sincerely and from the bottom of my heart. I think Dak did that. I think, you and I and so many of us like Dak Prescott a lot as a man, in addition to as a player. I just think it's another, nice indicator of the type of person Dak Prescott is, to reassess things from the heat of the moment and go, yep, you know what? I was wrong. I apologize. And here's 5 tweets. Here's a long statement expressing my apology.
Yeah. And shouldn't the apology be worth something too, instead of a fine? Because a fine to me says, hey, you did something wrong. Here's how you're going to make up for it. You already apologized. Mm-hmm. Why are you still fining him? You have enough money, NFL. You have enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it, and again, I think it was, especially at $25,000 instead of $100,000 or more. I think it was more symbolic of, you can't advocate or seem to advocate throwing things at officials. So and if it ever happens again, if they didn't find Dak, then someone said, hey man, you guys didn't find Dak Prescott when he said that. Now I said this and you're going to find me. So I think it's precedent and it's symbolic. So just another weird sidelight and aftershock of that Dallas Cowboys loss to the San Francisco 49ers. I do want to underscore, Shannon, I think it's cool, and we'll continue to track it as it happens and we get closer. And it will be one of the bright spots of this season. Greg Popovich, 9 wins away with 2 games this weekend and a chance to win against 2 really good teams. Brooklyn Nets coming in tonight. Philadelphia 76ers coming in on Sunday night against the Spurs. I'm hoping the Spurs can grab 1 or 2 of those games and win at home. It'll be tough, but again, something to keep an eye on as Greg Popovich about to make some NBA history. And as I mentioned, Shannon, part of the fun's going to be when he does do this, to see his reaction, if any, when people congratulate him for achieving this.
Yeah. Do you think people are going to do something like, I know we talked about like, a journalist will probably congratulate him and say how great it is. And then Pop will probably turn around and be like, but do you have a question? But as far as like the team and the Spurs or friends, family, is that something that you like make a cake for, like give him flowers? And do you do it because you know that that's not like his thing, but it's a reason to have cake? Or do you do it and hope that maybe this will be the one time that he's like, you know what, I do deserve a pat on the back?
Well, and that doesn't sound like Pop. I
Right.
do deserve a pat on the back. It'll shock us if he does it, which would be cool. I would hope, and I don't think a Gatorade bath would be appropriate, but I would hope the players, whenever that win comes, because after the game you go and you congratulate the other coach and you walk off the court. I would hope the players do something cool. I don't know what that is. I would love if they get together and come up with something creative on their own. I'm seeing Tom Tope, and I know Tom, a great comedian I used to work with back at River Center Comedy Club. Tom Tope says Pop should get a wine bath, as in, he's a wine connoisseur. That's a great creative idea, and that would be cool too if like the players. If they rolled out like one of the best bottles of wine you can find and like hand that to him,
that would be
after
nice.
the game.
Yeah, give him a bottle of wine. Don't pour it on him.
I'm not saying douse him with the wine, but yeah.
Being on the end of
there should be something cool.
Yeah, being on the end of giving Pop any sort of bath over the head, I would be terrified for the rest of my days, thinking that he would pay me back for that. He doesn't seem like,
Yeah.
We talked to Jeff Traylor and he's like, listen, when we get towards the end of the games, I have guys whose job it is to make sure that we've cleared out the cooler so I can't have stuff dumped on me. I feel like that's very much Pop's vibe. Whereas Jeff gets they manage to find something to dump on him, but he laughs it off, whatever. Pop, I don't think that's not the vibe I get from him.
Yeah. It's going to be fascinating just to see what happens when he gets the win, both walking off the court and in post-game interview. Do the players do anything? And I can't wait to see his reaction, which I think is going to be no reaction. So it'll be fun to check that out. Shannon, finally, and we're going to play just a little quick tribute to Meatloaf on the way out of here this morning. But will you be able to watch these 4 NFL playoff games this weekend, beginning tomorrow with Bengals Titans, and not think about the Cowboys and not think about what could have been?
I'll be fine not thinking about the Cowboys. It's up to the announcers to not put that image back into my brain.
Yeah, but especially when we watch the 49ers against Green Bay, it's like, damn,
that's going to be hard.
That's the team that beat the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be happy about that. So, all right. Shannon, as always, outstanding. Great, tremendous salty shakedown today, as always.
Oh, thank you,
that was
sir.
A lot of fun.
Awesome.
And yesterday was trivia. I want to play more sports trivia on this show. That was so much fun yesterday.
We can do that.
So, a great week. Yes. Best of luck to your Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
By default, now your favorite team standing.
Bills Mafia.
Playoffs. I hope they win. Dave OEHLER, outstanding, sir. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Rest in peace, Meatloaf.
Yes, rest in peace, Meatloaf. A little Meatloaf on the way out here in just a sec. Our thanks to Coach A, Paul Alexander. Stay warm, everybody. Have yourself a tremendous football weekend. We will be here first thing bright and early Monday morning to talk all about it. On the way out, he was born in Dallas, Texas. You know him as Meatloaf. He provided a lot of great music along the way. On the way out of here this morning, we pay a little tribute to the man known as Meatloaf. Here it comes.
And I would do anything for I would do anything.
Adios, everybody.